On the morning of November 13th, 1974, 6 members of the DeFeo family were asleep in their home in Amityville, New York. The 7th member of the family, Ron, was sitting on his bed in the basement. At around 1 a.m., he got up off his bed, grabbed a rifle, and started walking up the stairs. He crossed the first floor, went up the second-floor stairs, and reached the second-floor landing. He walked right into his parents' bedroom, which was totally dark except for a small candle that had been lit next to his father's bedside. He raised his rifle and fired 2 rounds into his father's back. As soon as his father was still, he aimed at his mother and shot her twice. Then, he put the gun down and walked across the hall into his brother's room. He raised his rifle and fired 1 shot into his 12-year-old brother, Mark, and then aimed at his 9-year-old brother, John, and fired 1 shot at him as well. After leaving their bedroom, he walked down the hall to another bedroom where he found his 13-year-old sister, Allison. He raised his rifle and fired 1 shot. He then left her room, went up the 3rd set of stairs onto the 3rd floor, found his 18-year-old sister, Dawn, and fired 1 shot into her. Altogether, it took Ron about 15 minutes to massacre his family. At no point was he panicked, running around, or acting crazy. He was simply walking calmly from room to room, taking well-aimed shots to ensure they didn't get up again. He put the rifle down, went outside, and jogged to a bar. Inside, he put on a big facade, claiming he had just found his family and that they were hurt, asking people to come help him. When they got to the house, he refused to go inside, but the people from the bar went in and discovered the horrible scene. When the police arrived, Ron approached them and actually confessed, saying, "I killed my family." Although the DeFeo family had a reputation for being very dysfunctional, it was Ron who had the worst reputation. Known around Amityville for heavy drug use, being an alcoholic, and getting aggressive and confrontational with people, he was a guy no one wanted to be around. So, when news spread in Amityville about this horrible incident, and it appeared Ron was the one responsible, no one was truly shocked. However, as details of the crime scene emerged, specifically the way the bodies were positioned, people started to wonder if there was more to this case than met the eye. All of the DeFeo family members were found lying face down in their beds, and none of them showed any signs of struggling against their attacker. This led investigators to initially believe they must have been sedated, that Ron must have drugged them somehow before carrying out the attack. But when the toxicology reports came back, it was revealed that no one in the family had any substances in their system. At first, the police didn't consider this a big deal. They figured perhaps the family just hadn't heard the gunshots, since he wasn't shooting multiple rounds at once, but rather 1 single round here, 1 single round there. It was thought they just didn't hear it, which is why no one tried to escape. But it turns out the rifle Ron was using, the .35 caliber Mrballen, is one of the loudest rifles one can own. In fact, investigators went out and conducted a test, firing it indoors, and found that you could easily hear it a mile away. So, investigators concluded that the family must have heard these gunshots, but for some reason, they didn't get out of their beds, didn't try to fight back in any way, and simply took it. Then, there was the strangeness of Ron's confession. On the night of the attack, Ron was sitting on his bed, unable to sleep, while everyone else was asleep upstairs. He began hearing a voice in his head saying, "Catch them, kill them." He thought he was losing his mind, but then, from out of the shadows, straight across from him, under the basement steps, a shadowy figure emerged and started walking toward him. He could see its mouth moving, appearing to say the words, "Catch them, kill them." Ron looked up as the figure walked closer, bending down right next to his ear, and said directly to him, "Catch them, kill them." Ron then said he involuntarily reached over for the rifle lying on the bed, stood up, and began walking toward the steps. He knew what was going to happen, that he was going to kill his family. He didn't want to do it, but he felt as though he no longer had control over his body. That's when he realized he was being possessed by this demon in the basement. While Ron's confession terrified everyone in Amityville, the notion that there was a demon living in the basement of this house possessing someone to kill their family scared the town. However, it didn't hold up in court, and ultimately, Ron was sentenced to life in prison. 1 year after the murders, another family, the Lutz family, moved into the house in Amityville. They left only 28 days later, reporting that they, too, heard voices coming from the basement. After hearing about the mass murder that took place in the house and the Lutz family's claims, world-renowned demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the property. Quickly, they concluded that the house was indeed haunted. In fact, to this day, the Amityville house is considered one of the most haunted places in the entire world. While Ed and Lorraine were there, they took a famous picture. Lorraine was walking around the second floor near where the brothers' room was, snapping photos. At the time, the only people in the house were her and her husband, Ed. In one of the photos she took on the second floor, there appears to be a boy standing on the left side of the picture. Lorraine claims that this is the ghost of John DeFeo. Today, the house still stands and has been bought and sold multiple times over the years, as it seems no one wants to live in the house for very long.